The New Westminster School District recognizes and acknowledges the Kakite First Nation as well as all Coast Salish peoples on whose traditional and unceded territories we live, we learn, we play, and we do our work. Our first item is the approval of the agenda. It has been circulated. Are there any amendments to the agenda? Okay, seeing none, can I get a motion to adopt it as circulated? Moved and seconded. Thank you. Oh, yes, Trustee Andres?
Yeah, just looking at on page 3, it says administrative procedure XXX. Was there supposed to be a number associated with that? And just wanting to, just for clarity. Thank you.
It's new. Yeah.
Okay, so new procedure number will be assigned after it is finalized. Yeah, by staff. Okay, so on the agenda then, all those in favor? Any opposed? Motion is carried. Thank you. We have no district presentations or delegations or correspondence coming to this meeting. Those are generally received at our main open, which is at the end of the month. So we're at number 5, reports for senior management. I'd like to call on Pam Craven to walk us through the new administrative procedure on online learning.
Thank you.
Welcome.
So yes, we have the XXX until it's approved, and then we can give it a number. What's being presented though is an admin procedure for online learning. This has come about because after COVID and our successful K-8 online program, we have had now quite a few middle school students who want to accelerate, who want to move ahead. And over the last couple of years, I've just been working individually with the admin at the schools to say, yes, you know, we want kids to have these opportunities. But we really felt last year that it was important for us to have a little bit more of an admin procedure for the admin to show parents the process to go through. It's not that we're trying to stop anybody from getting in, but just to be a little more transparent in it. So the backgrounder there just explains, you know, that we are an online school. We are actually a provincial online learning school, which offers online to anybody in the province. And that is an agreement we have with the ministry. There's 18 of them in the province. And that we do focus on that student-centered pedagogy, student support, and we do want to make sure that our online courses are inclusive, accessible for all school-age students. So what we have been doing here is looking at how we can support students that are in grade 8 primarily is what the examples we've been given, and they want to take the grade 9 online course. And how would that work? And we've tried a couple different things with some of our different middle schools to see how this would work. And with working with the administrators, we kind of ran back and forth some of these processes. We've talked with parents as well and students about how it worked for them. And we came up with this procedure that if a student wants to take it, making the parent aware that, you know, this is an online course. It's normally done through the internet or at a distance from the school. So it's not the traditional classroom where a learner is learning. The second point there being that it is primarily offered over the internet with a variety of software tools. So for example, we use Brightspace within New Westminster Schools to allow the students to access specific curriculum and then to interact with their teachers. And so we wanted to make sure that students have that option to choose the online learning, especially for different reasons to accelerate. For some students, it's because the course might not be available that they would want at that time. And that's more for the high school. But part A there is specifically for those intermediate students in grade 6 to grade 8 that are looking to accelerate and take a course through our New Westminster online learning. We need to make sure that they do have the approval of the school administrator first, again, wanting them to know that the student is doing this, and then making sure that they realize that this is coursework that will need to be done on their own time, as they're still required to participate in the school during the school day. And this is where a lot of discussion went back and forth with the admin due to the fact that if the student's trying to do their grade 8 math or grade 9 online in their grade 8 class, that requires additional supports. if they're going to do the online course in the middle school timeframe. So that was why we had to kind of emphasize this notion that, you know, during the school day, we don't want to put more strain on the school itself, the middle school. But if they want to be doing this, they can, just at their own time. They can always still reach out to get support from the teachers online. And we actually have had a couple of students who have made arrangements through their parent with the teacher and the school admin in the last block of the day. And I'll use FRMS as the example. The student has made arrangements to come up to the online room in the last block, touch base with the teacher, and then get picked up from there. So those are rare occasions when that has happened. But we want to really be able to emphasize to parents that, yes, we want you to be able to take the course online, but that it is kind of, you're still part of the middle school and you are required to do what they do at the middle school in that aspect. So that's why we added these little bits. I will say too, across the province, there are only 2 other districts that actually have an online admin procedure. So it's really challenging to find some examples of this to look at. And we really wanted to tailor it to what our need is here.
Okay, great. Thank you. Any questions or comments? Trustee Andres.
Thanks for your work on this, Pam. I know how diligent you are and how much thought goes into it. I'm gonna say a big but here, and you know, I'm concerned about us moving like younger and younger with online learning. I've great concern about grade 6 students in particular. We're trying to get students off devices, getting them to engage, you know, more with their peers, and I have reservations about the well-being of the student if we're getting younger and younger students to take these online courses as options. I think that there's a lot that happens in the classroom, which is, and I know we're not trying to take away from what happens in the classroom, but I don't think that we can control how students will potentially access this unless we disable somehow Brightspace during like class time, because I think students will be motivated potentially to do that. And I think it will take away from the instructional experience and connection with peers. And so I'm just saying that I have these reservations around this. I think as well, you know, I will say this, that this obviously is just an informational thing. You know, we're seeing huge changes, right, in terms of our you know, AIs, right, and their sophistication, and our ability, I think, to monitor this this process, I think, is really limited at this point in time, and I worry about students getting into this credentialing race, right? Like I have this option, you know, I can take this course, I can, you know, potentially, okay, I've got Math 8, now I'm going to do Math 9, now I'm going to do Math 10, now I'm going to, right? And we end up in this process that maybe is beneficial to the student and the learner, but maybe it isn't when we can't verify those things. So, you know, something for me that would, you know, be thoughtful and would be making like maybe this online course, you don't get a letter grade, you get a pass or a fail for the course. And I'd be really curious how that would impact students in terms of their, you know, interest in taking it, right? If we're coming from this place of interest and robust desire for learning, then, you know, perhaps this would, you know, drive students towards taking courses for this reason, maybe. Anyway, I know I'm speaking at length about this. This is something that, as an educator, I think deeply about, and I have great concerns about. And I like that we are providing options for students, but yes, I'll see the rest of my time. Thank you.
Pam, I've got another trustee comment. Do you want to hear that and then circle back? Okay, Trustee Connolly.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate always Trustee Andre's perspective from a teaching perspective. I do know also from a parenting perspective, there are incidents where it is quite important to have access to that type of learning. and whether it's just, you know, a student who is super motivated and needs that extra challenge, to a child who's ill, to a child whose family is maybe taking a sabbatical and traveling, or there's lots of scenarios where I think that it would be very useful for younger grades. And just kind of on that, I'm curious, the online learning programs, in the top, it references online learning grade 9 to 12. And then we jump into grade 6 to 8 below. And then I'm also was just curious about including in it, and maybe this isn't part of the AP. I don't know, and we'll look to you for your expertise, but just including the support available at the high school. I know that there's a special site that, you know, classroom that kids can go to. Is that something that would be included so that people understand there is support through the school, or is that just a briefing they get when they're registering? So, thank you.
And Trustee Slynn.
Oh yeah, just a couple comments, not really a question. You know, I echo some of what Trustee Andre said, like having kids, like we're saying on one hand, like we want you to be off your devices, and then the other hand, it's be on your devices more in your own free time to do your coursework. And I agree about like the risks with AI and the students using it. I mean, because not so much of them just passing the class, but like if they use it and they pass grade 9, they actually don't have the fundamentals, and then they go to 10, 11, and eventually I feel like, you know, that foundation falls out from under them, and then, you know, it's the I failed a grade, or and the emotional stuff that comes with that. But at the same time, like I feel the world is moving into that, like as adults working from home and developing those skills of being able to manage that time and do that work. So I'm not here with a question, or just thoughts around seeing both sides. But I would echo that, like, I think we're having to have some sort of checks and balances on the AI, and making sure that the students have the foundation that they need for the later grades is really important.
Okay, any responses to Superintendent Davidson?
Just one quick, well, maybe two quick things. One is that I know that there's a fair number of students who, particularly between that 8 and 9, who are trying to get space in their schedule so they can actually do more of the things they love face to face with kids. So there are people making different choices for different reasons. One of the strengths of staff who work inside of all of our alternative settings, I would suggest, including online, is that they're good at having conversations with young people about, is this for you? I've noticed this far down the line. Here's a challenge that I think you're experiencing. How can I help you to transition the other way, to head to a setting that's going to meet your needs better? Because I do know that there are good, caring conversations happening there around just the things that you're talking about. And I acknowledge that those are legitimate concerns, and ones that we're all grappling with in our own lives, as well as in our thinking and around school leadership and teaching. So.
Go ahead.
All right, thank you. So just to address a couple of them, I love the pass-fail idea. I wish I could implement it. But again, these are ministry courses. We follow ministry reporting order for them in that aspect. I will be removing that top part of the grade 9 through grade 12. I thought I'd already done that because it is focused more on, it is for the high school program, our online, but we already have our process for that. This is mostly focusing for those intermediate students. And I just want to point out too it's for those that are looking to kind of accelerate and take a course. That's why I really emphasized the A course, because we don't want them coming completely online full time. We want them to have that school experience. And I think the other big thing, as Mark was kind of saying there too, like that's why we wanted that conversation with the school administrator, so that there is the conversation with the parent and the student of, is this an appropriate pathway for you? So for some students that have actually have expressed the interest in it, and I'll use math as the example. We had them do an assessment with Josh, our district math instructor, to make sure that they were accelerating and had the skills already for grade 8 before we said, okay, yes, you can go in to the grade 9 one. So we are trying to, again, slow that down, ensure it's a good fit for that student. And the checks and balances for sure within these Brightspace courses, there are a lot of checks and balances put into place. We are actually revamping a lot of our way we do assessments in those courses for this whole AI aspect and what's been happening with that. So again, lots of work in progress, but still needing to make sure that they're there.
Great. Trustees Lynn.
Could I just ask a follow-up? I don't know if this is possible, but like, because I heard somewhere, like, you know, just kind of reimagining how like tests are taken. It's like if people are using AI, then it's more of like an oral like presentation about what you know. So would it be possible if a student was taking a grade 9 math class, the exams are in person and the coursework is done online? Like, is that a possibility or no?
It's a possibility. We have some do come in and do it face to face. We also do a lot of, okay, let's both hop onto Teams at the same time. I want to see you and see your surrounding. And we ask the parents most of the time to individualize and watch students doing tests. So parent checks in and says hi as well. And so we have those types of things in place to help. And I do appreciate that comment about putting stuff through Teams, through the support at the high school, because we do have evening hours as well that the kids can come up. So I'll make sure that that gets added in as well.
Okay, great. Well, thank you. Oh, Trustee Sluice.
Sorry, I'm not here to wordsmith, but I do wonder if it would be valuable to actually add a statement that says that online courses are generally discouraged for 6 to 8, as opposed to an invitation. Like, just be explicit about that, but just for consideration.
I'll
Okay,
consider how to word that,
Yeah.
wordsmith that.
great. Well, thank you very much for the opportunity to weigh in. We appreciate it. Look forward to seeing the final version. And now, welcome Kai Smith to bring our annual sexual orientation and gender identity report. Very, very exciting in Pride Month. Over to you.
Okay, hi, nice to see everybody. My name's Kai Smith and I'm the district SOGI lead, and I'm also a teacher at RECAP, the junior alternate program. So this year was the first year that we had 0.4 FTE dedicated to SOGI, and it made a big difference, which means my presentation is going to be longer. So it was your fault. So here we go. No, it made a tremendous difference, and I was just so grateful for all the things we were able to do and the avenues that we were able to go down. So let's see what happened here. So first, the first slide is our SOGI Advisory Committee. This year, we were really able to engage with that committee, and you can take a look at it and you can see that there are folks from all areas of the district. And I don't think I miss a meeting without just being ebullient about how delighted I am with this particular committee. These folks are thoughtful, and they bring really interesting voices from their own experiences and from their experiences in their positions around the district. So it's made all the difference working with this committee. Next slide, please. Thank you. So I'm just going to highlight a few of the things. My presentation will be a bit about committee stuff and then a bit about me in schools, and some parent stuff thrown in there. So the committee, we're looking at 3 major projects right now. The first, the working title is the Changes in Gender Identification Handbook. It may be something eventually that rolls off the tongue a little better, but that was something that came up when Ken Headley and I met with some parents early in the year, and they had a young child who, it was interesting, the conversation sometimes identified as trans, but sometimes identified as gender creative, gender divergent, or diverse, I beg your pardon. And so it was, what happened was they were trying to figure out how to best serve this student. And we realized that we need to know a bunch from this end too. And it almost just came organically that we could, if we put together a handbook where parents could look in and teachers could look and administrators could see And again, I'm talking about our handbook and our meeting with the family. And we could have administrators, we could have board members know what's going on so they can communicate with the public better. And so this is going to be a big one. I checked with the other Lower Mainland SOGI people, and there's nothing like this exactly in districts. There's a lot of policy and procedure, but there's nothing that feels kind of handbooky where you look up what it is you need depending where you are in this equation. So we will keep an eye on that for next year moving forward, and where there will be a subcommittee within our committee addressing that. And so that's a big project we're looking forward to. The one that we have going on right now is bathroom signage, and we have had a subcommittee headed up by Haley Lohr, and it has Laura Kwong is always there, the DPAC chair, myself, Tellen, and I'm sorry, I don't remember Tellen's last name, but Tellen is a parent member of our committee, and then someone named Dianica Gallo, who's a grade 3 teacher who comes. So what we're doing is we're trying to put new bathroom signage to make it more inclusive. So it's really important that we understand when we're in schools and we have a boys and we have a girls sign, those won't change. And the interior, the architecture won't change. The only thing we want to do is add signs below the boys and the girls that say transgender and gender creative students are welcome. And what we want, the aim with those signs is to make sure that we have really articulated the inclusive nature of bathrooms. And we've actually been real about the fact that we have students in our schools, very young sometimes, for whom which bathroom do I go in when I'm not really sure, I just present a little bit differently. A lot of them don't even identify as trans. They're just a little bit different. Hopefully that will take the pressure off the student and also the teacher. We don't want staff to have to worry about, should I be letting this student go into this bathroom? We'll also show parents when they come to visit that this is a value we hold. And when we're teaching students about the importance of inclusion in our district, they have the signs in the halls so they understand what inclusion really looks like day to day. That's going to be a little bit on pause. Oh, you can see there's a document that I scanned in with the red. That's an FAQ, a frequently asked questions document that the subcommittee is putting together because, of course, parents and staff are going to have lots of questions. So there's a lot of work going on that. I don't expect to be able to read it from here, but Laura's done a lot of talking with parents too to find out what terminology they're most comfortable with and what are their most pressing questions. Let's see. The third one was putting up the vinyl displays of the district pride logo and bringing intersex pride flags into the schools. That is, oh, sorry, can you hit the next slide for me, please, Emery? Thank you. So that's an ongoing project. This is the first sticker that we have up. It looks small, but it's a whopping 47 inches in diameter, I can tell you. And so this is the first one we have up in New West, in NW. And I'm about to put in an order for another 13 of them. I'm just getting some more measurements. They've been received. I've heard some, well, everything's always received in a mixed sort of way, but I've heard some very touching, positive responses to that. It's going to be a bit piecemeal because some schools have interesting architecture and we need to deal with it differently. And of course, the safety is the most important thing. We can't be blocking windows. So I'm in communication with all principals to make sure that they're happy about where these things are going. Okay, next one. This is a picture of Haley and me at Discover New West Schools. And the reason I put that up there is I like that evening as a way to see where parents are at. And we always get some interesting comments. So the one that struck me was one of the first ones. We had a father come up to us, very kind and polite, but clearly concerned. And he had a 4-year-old son who he said was going to be starting kindergarten in the fall, but this child often liked to paint his nails. And the father said, what are the teachers going to do? And what struck me was I got the sense that it wasn't, are the teachers going to protect my child from bullies, which I spoke up and said, hopefully the teachers will pay extra attention to your child and make sure they're not getting any harassment. But I think part of the fear was, are the teachers going to decide my child's identity for him based on the way that he's presenting as a 4-year-old? And that's a real change in the kind of fear that we're getting from parents. So I just wanted to make sure that we know that that's still out there and that we're doing our best to speak to people. Now, in all fairness, it was polite. It was, just genuine concern, but still a concern nonetheless. Next slide, please. Thank you. This next slide starts by me referencing the DEIA Pro D that we did in November. I prepared 2 talks for that, one for teachers, it's more curriculum based, and one for CUPE employees that I don't get enough time to work with. And sure enough, some CUPE folks came in, I was delighted, some EAs, and they came in and very earnestly, I think before one of them even knew what came out of her mouth was, why are you doing this to our kids? Why are you hurting our kids? And this was the opening. And so we went from there. And this picture of this young trans boy that you're looking at here, I eventually showed the staff videos, and I thought we need to know who these people are. And so this little guy, he's 8 years old. He talks about his discomfort with his name, Rebecca. He goes by the name Bex. And he says Rebecca didn't work for him as a name. He said he was uncomfortable in bathrooms. And he said, in that moment that I've captured there, he's saying, I have a girl body and a boy brain. And so we took some time to really look at these kids. And I must say, the discussion, when I even think about it, was very moving. Not only were they able to really start to relate to these kids, but we were able to uncover the sense of grief that a lot of parents have when their children are being educated about things that may conflict with their values. And in fact, it's often not that their own child is going to be a member of the 2S LGBTQ community. It's just that they're being taught something different. And particularly for our new Canadians who have arrived and didn't expect that to be a price they pay for searching for a better life for their children, to have this rift in the relationship. So I really put in my mind and my heart that that's something we really want to talk about and with parents, because it's a super important piece that we don't want to gloss over. The other thing that, thanks, Emery, the next thing I did was Ken has brought in Leighton Schnellert, who we're looking at here, who's a wonderful expert on middle school teaching. And he has gathered 3 cohorts of folks from the middle schools, of interested staff, and a few of us also. And we've met a number of times over the year, and we've told our stories from our own perspective. So I talked about my growing up and my evolution as a queer person through a SOGI lens. It involved childhood pictures with hairdos. I'm glad you don't have to see. But so for doing that, we were able to I really wanted to figure out what it is that makes it tough sometimes for teachers to relate to queer students. And I wonder if it's sometimes a sense of they're a little much. Like they're being a little self-indulgent. They're like, fine, like we're good with you, but how come it's like always? And you don't seem to quit with thinking about it or talking about it. And so I really wanted to make sure that people understand that searching for one's identity, it doesn't just happen. It's a process, and it's a journey, and it's an alone process for the most part for students. So I think that was an interesting tack to take, to make sure that people get that folks are just trying to figure out who they are. And it's funny, I thought the other day, sometimes we always say to kids, oh, just be yourself, but they're not ready. Like we have to say, find yourself before we can even say, be yourself. So we're really excited we did some like really good work with Leighton. I was very grateful that Ken made that happen. And it allowed me to bring up the safer in here, which I hadn't been able to really address much. And so hopefully we'll be able to really move that forward. Okay, thanks, Emery. Okay, the next part of what I've been trying to do, and this is where the point 4 really paid off, was figure out how we're going to talk to kids in schools. The feedback I was getting was that if we come in with the one-off of the like SOGI lesson or the SOGI point we're making, that we would then leave, and then the behavior would escalate, and we'd end up with more homophobic and transphobic behavior. And my fear was, if this is a pattern, I don't want staff to stop having these talks just because it's getting to be problematic. So I thought was, how do we engage with this and make it more organic? Had a long talk with Sandra Singh, which was super helpful about making connection. And then Kim Fung in the middle schools had been at one of my Pro-Ds and invited me into her class, and that was a blessing. And so I was able to start working with grade 6 and grade 7. For grade 6s, I had an idea about leadership, and it fit the bill. And so these are a few slides of me talking just about what it means to be a leader. And the reason I talked to you about this is because this is how I was able to contain SOGI and extending grace and inclusion for sexual orientation and gender identity. But we also were able to extend all sorts of things. And you'll see when we flip through the slide. So I held my tongue about SOGI for as long as I could. It was like 5 or 6 classes. and we just talked about what it meant to be a leader, and kids answered what it means to be a leader. That's what they're doing there. And so I found there were 3 categories. And so, sir, if you can flip the next one, Anne-Marie, and I'll try and read it from here. Then it ended up with 3 categories, meaning like lead in a good direction, make others feel good, and I can't even remember what the red one says, be helpful, I think was the other one. As be helpful, those were my working notes. And so I had kids take time to think about, like, what does that mean? The funny thing was, they were like, well, you just make other kids laugh. Like, if you make kids laugh, then you're doing a good job. And I said, well, you can't make people laugh at someone else's expense. And they didn't know what that term meant. So we had to unpack that. And then they were like, oh, so that was really interesting moving forward. So if we flip to the next slide, again, this is just my process. I said to them, if you're going to make people feel included, what do you got to know about them? Like, what's going to be important to them? And so they made this list. And what I was delighted about is, this is my messy writing, but they made the list. The gender identity and sexual orientation don't show up until quite a ways down the list. But they brought them up, not me. These were grade 6s. And so they knew enough to know that that's what we're talking about here, along with race, skin color, all sorts of things like food and body image and, pardon me? The food we eat. Yeah, it's a big thing when you're a kid and you don't want to eat in front of other kids. If the food you eat is going to be mocked in any way because it's different from what other kids like eat, it's a big deal. And so, yeah, they brought up all of this. So I was cheering inside, like, I can't even tell you. Anyway, then I got to talk about sexual orientation and gender identity. Can you flip this slide for me, please? Excellent. So then we were talking about how you see yourself as being a learner, as being a leader. And these are grade 6s. So a lot of it is make people laugh without hurting their feelings. Make sure that you haven't been mean to somebody. And then there's a big long list. And on the bottom is respect people's choices and pronouns. And so these came organically after about 6 classes with the grade 6s. So my hope is that I will put this together. And I've been looking for something where I can give this to another grade 6 teacher and say, I think this is the level they're operating at. Why don't you give it a try? Try these steps, give me a call, see how it's going. And maybe we can start to teach inclusion through leadership in grade 6. Then I made the mistake of trying to do that with grade 7. And by the time they're in grade 7, as a grade 7 teacher, Sarah Bester told me, she said, no. You can have a student who says, oh, that's interesting in grade 6. And in grade 7, you start and they go, no. And so I said, okay, then you're independent thinkers. Let's try that. And they ate me alive for a little while, but we started to get somewhere. But can you flip the slide for me again? I see what I got. Oh, first of all, they had to do the offensive jokes. So all the I can identify as something, which is mocking trans identities. So there's one about being a Walmart bag, and they kept this going for way too long. So finally I did what an adult does, and I wrecked it for them. I said, let's talk about it for the next 45 minutes. So we got the joke and we talked about why they would say it. Why is it funny? How does it bond you with other people? What is your issue with Soji stuff? And we got that all. And then I haven't heard it since. But it was really important, I think, to tackle it head on. Still wasn't quite the solution I wanted. Could you do the next slide, please? Eventually, I had been watching this video. That's 2 young trans people on a video called Trans Youth Town Hall. I've seen it maybe 100 times, and it didn't stick with me until it did. And that fellow, at one point, he says, anyone telling your story for you and then telling it wrong, how do you contend with that? And I thought, that's grade 7. Grade 7 doesn't want people to say they know them better than themselves. So I went in the other day and I just put the quote up and I said, what do we know about this? Like, and here was the blue prompt, like, write about a time when someone told your story for you and got it wrong. Well, they weren't sure until a young Brazilian kid, he said, oh, wait, you mean when someone's like talking smack about Brazil and they've never been? I said, yeah, that's what I'm talking about. He goes, oh, okay. And he was sort of a leader. So when he started doing the writing, all his satellites started doing the writing. So they did the little thing. And after that lesson, that child came up to me and said, thanks very much. I really appreciate it, that lesson. And I was like, so there we go, right? We just got to get to the grade 7 of it all, the you don't know me of it all. And so I'm looking forward to trying that next year. And my thought around grade 8 would probably be something about building identity and choosing who you want to be, but I haven't had a chance to run that. So with the point 4, I'm grateful for it again next year. I'll be in the middle school again, at least 1 day a week, which is what I'm doing now, and trying these things out in the classrooms. Okay. When we're not there, we just last week had our first district pride gathering where we invited all 2S LGBTQIA staff members, regardless of their position within the district. And it was lovely. It was awesome. And it was wonderful response. We're already looking forward to having another one. In the end, it turned into like a board game it just could not have been better. But I must say that it was so very important. There were tears, there were emotions, there was all the things we would look for in gathering people and bringing them together and watching the gratitude and just the importance of having the space. So I was really grateful to the district for making that happen. In Fraser River, I've been working with the GSA there. They're having a Pride Fest on June 18th. Part of what brings me there was losing Kira, who I realized, because Kira walked through the world like me, I realized what a loss that was, like an identity. You can hear my voice. And I thought, oh my goodness, there's young people who don't have that model in the hall anymore. And I don't even know them, but I can at least show up so they know, like, we're not running out of us. Like, there's more, and they're not that alone. And so I've been walking the hall and joining the meetings, and it's been fulfilling. But you know, they're kids. I can't jump right into their stuff, but I'm going to help them put together Pride Fest. So if anyone's available next Wednesday morning, there's a bunch of kids working hard to spread the word in Fraser River. And then here's our next steps. Moving forward, there's a lot of steps. So working, let's see, with the handbook, working with the signs, working in the classroom. Oh, and the bathroom signs are going to need to be coordinated with the accessibility folks, because we have to make sure that they're serving all students properly. So we've got what we're doing, but we need to make sure they're at the right height, they're the right color, that they have the Braille, that the wording will accommodate the Braille, all the things that the accessibility community is going to bring forward. So we will keep that on hold until we can intersect with what they're doing. The last one is continue working at Fraser River, and then figuring out the SOGI leaders are saying, we don't know how to serve these students. They won't come to meetings. We don't know what they need. And so we're going to have to figure out a strategy around that moving forward. Okay, that was the fastest I've ever done this. Does anyone have any questions?
Incredible. Can I just say, whoof, I don't know that a 0.4 FTE have ever had this much impact. Trustee Dhaliwal.
I wanted to say the same thing, Kai. Like, this was just so impressive. And I feel like with all the years that you've been doing this, I feel like, wow, you've made such an impact this year. And I really appreciate just hearing the stories of how, like, you're meeting students where they're at. And just the importance of, like, storytelling with families and parents, and like putting faces to these experiences, and like just your entire presentation. Like, I was just in awe and just so impressed. And thank you so much for all this, like, incredible work that you're doing, and keep it up.
Thank you so much. And again, it all goes back to having that extra time. It makes all the difference. So thank you.
Trustee Connolly.
I'm going to echo the sentiments, and I'm privileged to sit on the committee and be part of these discussions and see a lot of this incredible work as it's progressing through the years. So thank you for allowing me to be part of that. And I also just, I would be remiss if I didn't give a little shout out to Kylie Walsh as well for all the work that she does to keep the committee organized, and certainly grateful to her as well for making the connections between the two committees in terms of the accessibility and the signage, and so yeah, it's an incredible group of people, and it's an honor to be part of that. So thank you.
Thanks, Danielle. That was so important. It was Kylie who brought it up. Kylie said, I was taking minutes for one meeting and I heard bathroom, and I'm taking minutes for another meeting and I heard bathroom, and you're going to want to follow this up. And thank goodness there was Kylie. So thanks, Danielle. And thank you for being on the committee.
Trustee Sluice.
Thank you. Yeah, last year, this board formed a committee, provided additional FTE to the SOGI lead position, and passed a 3-part motion. That motion included that the board reiterate its ongoing and unequivocal commitment to safe and welcoming learning and working environments for 2S LGBTQIA students, staff, and families. We're doing that. That the board direct staff to explore options for increasing visibility of the district's support for 2S LGBTQIA community at our schools and in our offices. We're doing that. It's a flag right behind you. That we direct staff to ensure that the 2S LGBTQIA plus and gender inclusive training for educators and support staff at district-run professional development days is prioritized. We're doing that. I just want to say thank you for fulfilling the intent of those motions and going beyond. Thank you for the passion with which you do this work and truly connecting with our students and families.
Thank you.
Appreciate all your work, Kai.
Thank you. I appreciate that. I didn't mention that right after the meeting, Trustee Sluse started me on the path to finding the Pride logo, to figuring out that we should put that. We actually went on a field trip one day. We went to all the sites to figure out what the potential is for how we could make the sites more welcoming and more inclusive. And there's a ton of potential out there, isn't there? And we actually kind of said, well, let's start with this logo because we have it and we can do it more quickly and do it in a more uniform kind of way. But there's lots of potential out there. So I really appreciate that.
Wow. Well, just again, thank you. Really, really incredible.
Good. Thank you
Great
very much.
way to end almost end June. Yeah, really, really. Thank you. You too. That is our reports from senior management. So we're at question period, and welcome questions to the chair on matters that arose during the meeting. Do we have any? Those in the, okay. Our attendee in the audience is shaking her head. I'm just going to give people a minute in case they had a question online. Sometimes it takes a while to find the mute and hand buttons. Okay, I'm not seeing any. So I think then report out from in camera, there is a report attached on page 24 of the package. And then notice of meetings, we're at the end of our meeting schedule for June. There is a regular board meeting on Monday, the June 23rd. That's been moved a day forward to accommodate the high school graduation on our usual date, which is the Tuesday. Look forward to seeing anybody there. And then the rest of the schedule will come out after we pass the board work plan at our next meeting. So that takes us to adjournment. Can I get a motion to adjourn? It's been moved and seconded. Thank you. All those in favor? Any opposed? Carried. Thanks and good night.